I just spoke with a dad who is interested in joining the program for that. And so I was asking him questions about his childhood. And what he told me was about his parents. And he started by saying, well, I don't hold a grudge, but, and this is so common. That's why I wanted to talk about it. It's very common for parents that I talk to who already have the level of awareness to realize I'm yelling exactly like my dad did, or moms. I yell exactly as my mom used to yell. I'm even using the same words, and I can imagine my face looks the same way. That's how I used to feel. My mom, the most terrifying thing she could actually do was not even to yell. It was when she called my name, my Alena, like my normal name. For you, it's normal. For me, it was not normal to hear my mom say Alena, because I knew when she said that, I knew she was like very upset and I was in trouble. Because normally she didn't call me that way. There was like the cute, shorter nickname version of my name, right? So this is what it happens very often, right? We are trying to not repeat the mistakes of our parents. We are realizing where they went wrong, and often we are having complete, full compassion for what they went through. So also this dad, he was telling me, I totally understand my parents. Since I became a parent, I understand they had so much going on. They had kids too young. They had too many of them. Plus, often the cultural background, if you're like me from Eastern Europe, former Soviet Union, or anywhere around Europe, like there were crazy things happening like 40, 50 years ago. It all impacted our parents. I have nothing but compassion for my parents. And so did this dad. He was like, I completely understand. They did the best they could. And there were things that were happening that were not okay. He was being spanked and he was trying to make it feel light. And he was talking about it. Of course, he's a guy. He's grown up. So he didn't start crying about his childhood. But I could hear it. And he was saying he was spanked way too often, way too hard than the parents wanted, especially dad. And dad was very vocal. So how do you console this? It's like being in between. You love your parents, and now even more when you have kids, you realize how hard it must have been for them. So you have total compassion for them. But at the same time, you understand, and there's a part of you who still feels like the kid, who feels like this was not fair and it was not okay. And part of you has the full right to be mad, to be angry, and to feel like this was not fair and I deserved better. It was not my fault. Okay. And I want you to know it's perfectly okay for these two to coexist. You having compassion and still being angry. It's completely normal, logical, understandable. Welcome to being human. Experiencing the full range of emotions. It's never either or. It's hardly ever is. It's usually a mixed bag of emotions. And so is your relationship with your parents, probably. And it's perfectly fine. And why I want you to know about it, that it's okay, and I want to normalize it and give you the permission to feel it all and be okay with it, is because I don't want you to get stuck there. Because I also I'm having these free assessment calls with women, usually with women who are interested in getting the healing because they want to stop yelling at their kids, they want to stop smacking their kids, but they let that relationship with their parents block them. Because they're like, if I would then tell my mom that I'm doing this trauma healing journey, if I would tell her, it would hurt her because she would feel like I blame her for not being perfect. I can't do that to my mom. It's completely normal. Take a breath. Yes, let's add that into the mix. You being worried about your mom's feelings or your parents' feelings, but also see what that's going to cost you and your children. If you keep tiptoeing on eggshells around your mom's feelings, and for the fear of hurting her by admitting you need actually childhood therapy, rather you will not do the therapy, you will not do the work, you will not do your healing, then what is it going to cost you? So you put your mom first, and that means you put yourself and your kids, your family down. You will not get the help you need. You will keep yelling at your kids and keep giving them this generational madness. Really? So that's why your work starts already here, actually, even before you get into any program, any help, even before you start healing anything. You need to decide what are your priorities. And you need to start work with that people-pleasing voice in your head, in your heart, who makes you feel like I need to take care of my mom before I do anything else, before I take care of myself. Please realize this is already your childhood trauma acting up. And yes, I will keep calling it trauma. Yes, I know some people get triggered by it because they will be like me. I had a happy childhood. What are you talking about? I don't need a therapy. My dear, if there are parts of you jumping up in anger, if you're feeling just like now I described, you need to tiptoe around your parents because you're still scared of their reaction, their judgment, or you're afraid of hurting them because you know they have so much on their plate, so you don't want to add up because there's no more room for any more trouble. Your parents already have so much, so you will keep being the shy, quiet little girl who doesn't make any trouble. On the opposite, you will go and help and do anything you can. You will kill yourself if you could, just to help your parents. Please know that is a part of your childhood trauma that needs healing. People pleaser childhood trauma. Yes, it's a trauma because it's death, like a death by 1,000 paper cuts. I talk about it in a mommy tantrum training. Register for one if you haven't watched it yet, because that's where I explain trauma is not just a shock. It doesn't mean that if your parents didn't sexually abuse you or beat you up every day so much that you couldn't walk, that's a shock trauma. And I'm really sorry if that happened to you. But most of us sitting on this podcast, you did not go through a shock trauma. You have a developmental trauma, which is the opposite extreme of the spectrum that trauma is. And that developmental means too little for too long. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. If you would cut your finger just once by a paper, did it happen to you? I bet like it happened to all of us, right? Once upon a time. It's just like a small annoyance. It just bleeds a little. It just hurts a lot. In 2 days, it's gone. You don't even remember you had anything. But if you keep cutting on the same place several times a day, you would have a serious health issue. You could die on it, get some infection or bleed out. Sorry for the graphic example, but do you understand now? This is what developmental childhood trauma is.